defeated, and any use of nuclear weapons would be met with a response that would be effective and overwhelming.
In Asia this morning on his first overseas trip in his new role. He will try to reassure Japan and South Korea, two of the United States' strongest allies, and he will reassure them on America's commitment to the region. Mattis met this morning with top leaders in Seoul, South Korea. Our Adriana Diaz is there. Adriana, good morning.
Good morning. By choosing to come to South Korea first, Secretary Mattis's message is clear. America first does not mean backing out of East Asia. And on the top of his agenda here is the rising threat from North Korea. Secretary Mattis's first offering of assurance to South Korean leaders was an extended hand. A stalwart ally, South Korea is now uncertain about its standing with America.
We defend South Korea. We defend Saudi Arabia. We defend countries. They do not pay us what they should be paying us.
President Trump's campaign rhetoric sent jitters through the region and is at odds with statements from his new defense secretary.
Our new administration inherits a very strong, trusted relationship between our two countries, and it's our commitment to make it even stronger.
Clearing up that confusion is the primary goal of the trip, says Professor John Delury of Yonsei University.
There is a palpable sense of uncertainty here. Defense Secretary Mattis's job number one is to let South Koreans know who they're dealing with.
Mattis is expected to focus talks on containing an increasingly aggressive North Korea. The country's capabilities keep growing. Kim Jong-un recently warned they'll soon be ready to test launch a long-range missile capable of hitting the U.S. Nowhere are the high stakes clearer than here on the border between North and South Korea, where soldiers stand at the ready for confrontation. And recent provocations from across the border in the north are straining this already tense situation. That tension is felt just 35 miles south in Seoul. North Korea is probably watching Trump and looking for opportunities to cause problems, this woman told us. Professor Delury agrees.
Once they get a read, especially on where the Trump administration is going, then they're going to start acting on whatever their counter strategy is.
To defend against North Korea, Secretary Mattis reiterated America's commitment to installing a controversial anti-missile system here known as THAAD. Friday, he goes to Japan to meet with the Prime Minister. The two are expected to discuss American troops based there, as well as a rising China. Nora?
All right, great.
Military exercises get underway in Iran. The Guardians of the Revolution, a branch of the armed forces, say the maneuver show Tehran is prepared to confront the threat posed by what are described as humiliating sanctions imposed by the US on Friday. Tehran carried out a missile test on January the 29th. On a visit to Japan, U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is clear.
This is the single biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And I think it is wise to make certain that Iran recognizes that what it is doing is getting the attention of a lot of people. And we have a responsibility, along with the rest of the nations that want to maintain stability, to be absolutely clear with Iran in this regard.
Iran says the sanctions are illegal. Officials say they, in turn, will impose legal restrictions on U.S. individuals and entities, helping what they describe as regional terrorist groups. Those affected can't access the U.S. financial system or deal with U.S. companies.
A show of defiance from Iran as it holds a massive military exercise. The drill coming just one day after President Trump slapped new sanctions on the country for a recent missile test. State media saying Tehran testing missile and radar systems as well as cyber warfare programs. Our John Huddy is live from our Middle East Bureau with more. John?
Right, and there's great concern about this because, as you mentioned, it comes just a day after the U.S. leveled those sanctions against Iran. And adding to just the overall concern, the rhetoric coming out of Iran's military, one Revolutionary Guard Brigadier General Kelly said that, quote, any misstep from Iran's enemies will result and its missiles roaring down on their heads. Clearly, tough talk aimed at the U.S. and, of course, President Trump. Now, as you mentioned, Kelly, today Iran's Revolutionary Guards aerospace unit tested its missile and radar systems, cyber warfare systems, and command and control centers, again, a day after the Trump administration imposed sanctions on Iran because of the ballistic missile test that was carried out on Sunday. And President Trump, as we know, tweeted Friday that Iran is playing with fire. Well, today, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said that Iran's conduct will have to be addressed. U.S. officials have indicated that more actions could follow. We don't have specifics, so we're waiting on that. But the Secretary also said that Iran is the single biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Still, he said that despite the recent tension with Iran, he doesn't think it warrants an increase in the number of U.S. forces in the Middle East. And Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, is trying to put a more diplomatic face on this, saying that his country will never initiate a war or use its weapons against anyone unless it's in self-defense. But other Iranian leaders are taking a more proactive tone. In fact, the senior Iranian cleric, Ayatollah Khatami, told his followers yesterday, quote, "Our missile drills are a show of might. We are living in a world of wolves, wolves such as the arrogant government of America." And then his followers, thousands of them, Kelly, chanted in unison, "Death to America." Kelly.
That's disturbing. John, thank you for that
Do
report.
you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you?
But
Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world,
Right.
major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea. It's very
He's a
possible
killer,
I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
First. A new world order. Presidential decrees cascading from President Trump's pen.
Iran is holding a military exercise on Saturday to test its missile and radar systems. This comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump's administration imposed sanctions on Tehran for its recent ballistic missile test. Iranian state news agencies reported that homemade missile systems, radars, command and control centers, and cyber warfare systems will be tested in the drill. Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, said Washington was putting Iran on notice over its destabilizing activity. And Trump tweeted Tehran was playing with fire.